And welcome back to the program. My name is Victor Loh. It's now 7:12 a.m. If you're still in the house, let's talk about matters that affect each and every one of us here. Now, if you are salaried, non-salaried, so long as you're the age of above 18, you are obligated to pay tax as a Kenyan. That is the only sure way that each and every Kenyan, perhaps everywhere under the sun, is a government able to run their affairs. So today we want to talk about something called Tax Amnesty. I believe that each and every Kenyan at some point really prayed for that. Why you? At least for me, no. I'm a law-abiding citizen. That is why I have got Josephine Mugure, who is the Chief Manager, Corporate Policy Division at the Kenya Revenue Authority, so that we can talk about this. Josephine, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Victor.
This is how we do it every single morning. We wake up at 4 a.m. Must be a shocker to you, right?
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah.
Why yes and no?
Yes and no, because you'd wake up at 4:30 if
Yes.
you slept at 10 or 9, that's okay.
Yes.
You'd wake up at 7 if you slept at 3 or slightly later. So yes and no. For someone who sleeps early, 4:30 is okay.
Yes.
For someone who sleeps late, 7 is okay.
So that's why we are taxpayers, and that's why you're coming for us.
Yeah.
So that we can talk about matters to do with tax. Why are you coming for us?
We're not
Not
coming
in me
for
in
you.
particular. Yes.
We are not coming for you. We are extending an olive branch.
Right.
To say that if you've got some pending interest and penalties in your ledger, we want to deal with that for you. Yes.
How
So
important is that?
it is important because usually when you apply for a compliance check, the first thing for a compliance certificate, the first thing we do is we check your ledger. Do you have any outstanding principals?
Yes.
Interest and penalties. And if you have any of those, then you have to pay or get into a payment plan, because the purpose of a tax compliance certificate is to promote business, to enable you to do business. So we will not deny you one, but you have to get into a payment plan or apply for waiver of the penalties and interest. That is if you only have penalties and interest outstanding. So when your ledger is clean, it's a mileage for you. You don't have to apply for those. You get your tax compliance certificate in a minute or less. Yeah.
And many Kenyans, I believe, are taxpayers as per the KRA manifest and the records. What's the total number of taxpayers do we have currently with the KRA?
We have about maybe 6 million who are filing returns.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a good number, so to speak.
It's a good number considering some of the people who have PINs will be the elderly. You had a PIN, you used to earn income, now you don't earn anymore. Some of the other people who have PINs will be students. So we have a lot of students who have PINs, but they're not earning any income.
Yeah.
And people who get PINs perhaps to facilitate transactions, land transactions and other types of transactions. When you go to even open a bank account, they'll tell you need a PIN. So someone took a PIN, but they were not transacting, so they do not have income. Though that doesn't mean they shouldn't file their returns.
Right.
Yeah.
And out of these 6 million people who are eligible taxpayers in Kenya, there are those people who have accrued tax, how do you call it? Who've not paid taxes, and therefore those are the people that KRA are always encouraging to pay taxes.
Yeah.
What's the total number out of 6 million defaulters?
I wouldn't put a number for now.
Right.
Yeah. Let me not say a number because I don't have an accurate number.
And those are the people that you're targeting in terms of tax amnesty.
You know, even someone who is paying their taxes might have outstanding interest and penalties, or even outstanding principal.
Yes.
So we are targeting everyone, not only the people who are not paying. Because I could be paying, but there's a year that I filed my return late, so I've got an outstanding principal for a penalty for that year. So we are encouraging everyone, whether you have outstanding principal taxes or only penalties and interest, to take up the amnesty, which runs from 1st September 2023 to 30th June 2024. And so if you do not have any outstanding principal taxes, you will not be required to apply. We just go to the system and credit that for you. But if you have an outstanding principal as at 31st December 2022, then you'll need to apply.
Yeah.
Either pay up or get into a payment plan, and you must pay the principal in full by 30th June 2024. And then we credit the principal and the penalties and interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is tax amnesty generally? As a layman, because it's something that affects a majority of Kenyans, the way you've correctly put it, either you are paying taxes, but there is a period of time that you defaulted. So what is tax amnesty, basically?
A tax amnesty is a waiver.
Right.
Like getting rid of your penalties and interest. But you have to pay any outstanding principal for you to get the amnesty, if there is any outstanding principal. So we do not waive principal amounts. Yeah.
At what point does KRA come in to do waiver in terms of for the tax defaulters?
What happens? First of all, you have to get the law in place, because KRA is in the business of collecting taxes. So for us to waive something, for you not to pay that, then we must get the law in place for us to be allowed to waive that. So now the law is in place. It came in with the Finance Act 2023. And so now we're in the process of, our system is almost ready, but you have a manual intervention in the meantime. Then once that is done, the taxpayers start applying and paying up for the ones who want to pay up. And the commissioner will continuously waive for the ones who do not have any principal. Why I say that, why the commissioner will continuously waive, is because, you see, I might not have principal for, say, 2021 right now. And I'm assessed next month. So there's principal suddenly, which wasn't there. As long as this principal is cleared by 30th June 2024, then I qualify for the amnesty. And that's why the commissioner will keep doing it continuously until 30th June 2024. So that in any changing circumstances on any of my tax periods, then I also get to enjoy the amnesty. Then the last date by which the commissioner will waive the principals and interest outstanding is 30th June 2024. So we have until that time to continuously waive per period, as long as the taxpayer meets the conditions that have been set.
Let me just get it right. How does this affect our economy? If people, there's so many defaulters around, or taxpayers who are defaulting in the process, you go for a period of particular years and at some point you stop paying your taxes. How does that really have a ripple effect in our economy?
When we do not pay, then it means we are denying the government the money to run the services it's supposed to run for us, provide security, provide capital goods and social goods. So when we pay, like now when you take advantage of the amnesty, it means there'll be some money, you'll be inspired to pay some money because we are going to waiver the relating penalty and interest, which then means there's more money for our social goods. Yeah.
Okay. And there must be a procedure on how somebody can apply for amnesty.
Yes.
What's the procedure?
The procedure is you will go into, right now we are using a manual intervention. So there'll be a form.
It's not e-application?
Between now and the end of this month, we are going to use a form. And so you'll go to our website, you can download the form, or you can go to the nearest tax service office, you'll get a form, and then you'll fill and deliver it. Then it will be delivered and processed. When the system is ready, we are going to process, which is by end of this month. We are going to upload that and process. When the system is done, it's going to be available on your portal. You, the taxpayer, you have an iTax portal. So you'll go to your portal and you log in normally, and then you'll go to applications, and there'll be an application for amnesty.
Is everyone eligible, or who is eligible for an amnesty?
Everyone is eligible to the extent that you have outstanding principal and interest as at 31st December 2022. What I mean is, by the end of 2022, you had some principal or interest not paid on your ledger, then you're eligible. And how are you doing that? If you do not have any principal amount outstanding, you only had penalties and interest, then you do not need to apply. We will do that automatically. However, if there was some principal outstanding with regard to any tax period going as far back as 1992, when this system for self-assessment came into being, then you'll be required to apply so that you pay the principal, and then now that facilitates us to waiver your penalty and interest.
My director is asking me, what is principal? People are getting...
All right. Principal is the amount of tax that you're supposed to pay. For instance, you've been assessed and your payee is, say, 20,000. That's the principal amount, what is due from your income. If that amount is paid late, or the return relating to that amount is paid late, then it accrues penalty and interest. So principal is what you're supposed to pay if you pay in time and based on your the income you're earning. Then it gives rise to a penalty or interest. What you're supposed to pay when.
So during an application for you to get an amnesty,
Yes.
You go to your iTax portal,
Yes.
you do an application.
Yes.
Or done, manually and delivered to KRA offices?
We have a form, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the procedure and the application requirements are the same?
What we have in the form is what also you find on the portal.
Okay.
Yes.
And so what are the requirements?
The requirements is just you to know which periods that in debt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you apply. If you're not able to pay, because sometimes you're not able to pay, you will take the form, say it is dated per the 2021, 2022, whichever years. So you'll put the year and the amount that is due. Then how you're going to pay that amount. And we are going to allow you...
So it's basically like an agreement between...
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll say maybe amount. Say, assume you owe 30,000 6 months. So you'll put down in that form, you'll be committing that I'm going to pay KRA 5,000 for the next 6 months. 6 months is before 30th June 2024. And so once you have paid as per that form, then we will now credit the penalty and the interest.
Okay.
Because you have cleared the principal.
Yes. So it doesn't have to be a one-on-one conversation between an individual and the KRA officers. It's just an application and you're good to go.
It's an application. Well, yeah, you can do an application and leave it at our TSO. And then when the system is ready, we'll upload those forms ourselves. However, after when we have the system ready, we will discontinue the use of the manual forms, because you see it's work times 2. Right now we're just doing it as a stopgap. So you will get into your system and apply. Yeah, into your portal.
Why does it really sound to me that tax amnesty, waivers and write-offs are almost the same thing?
Yes, it's actually they were under the same, they are administrated under the same section of the
But
law.
they're different?
Yes, a write-off is when you're not able to pay your taxes for whatever reason.
Okay.
And we allow you, through the right procedure,
yes,
the commissioner writes that off. You're not able to pay, and that is very rare. But it has to be provided for in the law.
It has to be scrutinized that you're completely not in a position to.
Yes.
Okay.
Waiver is when now you have paid your principal and you want us to extend the, to allow you, to waive that for you, to allow you not to pay. Again, there is the procedure of how you do that. And going forward from 1st July 2023, the law does not allow for any waivers. That's why it is so important that we take advantage of this amnesty, because any principal and interest that arise after 1st July 2023 are not waivable. You cannot ask the commissioner to allow you not to pay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me get it right. From which period are we not going to have waivers?
From 1st July 2023.
Okay.
There will be no waiver. Moving forward. You know, before it was your right that after you pay the principal, you can apply for waiver of penalties and interest. So whatever reason, we had a form that you would fill in, not necessarily manually. You'd fill in and say, maybe I was misadvised by my tax advisor, or economic hardship, or, you know, there were a few reasons why you could apply for a waiver. So that has been taken away. From 1st July 2023, you cannot apply for any waivers. So take advantage of this amnesty, because then it will save you paying any penalties and interest up to 31st December 2022. You have only to pay now January 2023 to date. Yes.
And this applies to everyone?
Everyone.
Because we've seen a couple of county governments, you know, calling on people tax waivers if you are a taxpayer or you have some outstanding taxes. Some actually mostly on newspapers, but this is going to stop moving forward.
Yes, there will be no law, so it will stop.
Okay.
Yes.
So what really happens when someone doesn't agree with either you have a debt, you don't agree with the condition, but law is law and we have to follow it nonetheless. So how does one deal with that in a case where you don't agree with the tax or with the debt that is allegedly there, but first of all, again, you have to be given the tax amnesty?
What happens if you don't agree with the debt, like in the system, for instance? You look at your 2021 and there's a debt there and you're not agreeing with it. You're supposed to engage your TSO, the Tax Service Office, because we have your records. And of course, you'll be coming with your proof that I did business according to my records, I don't owe you this much. Then we will reconcile. There's room for reconciliation of the amount. And even not just because of the amnesty, there's always room for objection. The law provides for you to object if you do not agree, and then go through the whole process. The objections are handled by an independent department from the one that raises the taxes. So when you object, then your case is taken out to the independent department. It's called IRO, Independent Review of Objections, and they will go through it. You will provide records. There's a time frame. If you resolve, fair and well. If you do not resolve, move forward. You can raise alternative dispute resolution to address the matter, or you can move to the TAT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where, for example, you're a tax defaulter? You're not able to pay your taxes completely.
Yes.
But then you have something like a collateral, or you have a piece of land. Can KRA attach that to recover the money?
Yes, we can as much as possible. Because we do not want you to lose your business. We do not want you to lose your property. We will engage you. We will give you a payment plan. And we just want to be in that conversation. And if you're honoring it, then there is no need to get there. That is really the last resort. We'll have tried everything else before we get there. Yes.
One of the biggest things, actually, even in the Bible, people are supposed to pay tax. I have just to leave it there. But Kenyans are Kenyans. How do you deal with them? We have some taxpayers who've defaulted way back up to the 90s.
Yeah.
And when you go to the system, I remember I had an issue and I was sent west. Is it west of Nairobi?
Yeah, we have one.
Somewhere along Mombasa Road or that kind. And it had to be procedural for you to get your figures right. Either your employer does not remit your taxes, or even you as an individual do not file your returns. How do we deal with such people?
We have a department that, a division that deals with debt. And so they will have your records, like you said, and they will reach out to you and try to engage. That's our first point really of contact.
Yes.
We want to understand, okay, Victor, this is what we have on you, and come forward and, agree or dispute. So we will write to you, we will call you. Then when you get you to the table, we will talk about it. It is, we are friendly.
We'll write to you, we'll call you. It sounds so easy right here, but is it really what happens out there?
As to what happens out there, I am not the right person to say, but what happens at KRA is what I'm telling you. Okay. We will call you, we will write to you, and we will advance. We'll be telling you, we have 30 days, this is what we have on you, we have 30 days to assess you. Please get in touch with us, and we'll give you a 14-day notice, we'll give you a 7-day notice, we'll give you an immediate. When you give immediate, then we move to your bank and place an agency notice. Yeah. But like I said, that is not where we want to be, because we don't want to antagonize your business. We do not want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We want you in business. It applies all tax amnesty. Also, everybody is obligated for tax obligations. Does it fall under that? Everybody is mandated to. All the domestic taxes. Yes, are covered. That is VAT. And income tax. I know income tax has many facets. We have the payee, we have withholding tax. They are all covered. Yeah. Yeah. How do you deal with such scenarios where we have individuals or companies with money that they ought to carry running into millions, 500 million, 700 million? How do you deal with such situations? And yet, there is a tax amnesty. Do they also seek for such services? Yes, in fact, those are the ones we are looking for, because if you owe us a principal of 500 million and the penalty and interest is maybe, well, by demonstration, because you see, we don't know why that penalty is there. It could be maybe you didn't file your return. So depending on the circumstances of your being in that position, if you pay us this 500 million and we waive the whatever penalty is there and interest, then you'll have been benefiting the economy a lot. Yeah. So yes, we want everyone to come to the table, because it doesn't have a threshold. It's whatever amount that you owe that we want you to get into this conversation. So it would be good for us to collect even from those who it must have been running into number of years for someone to accrue such kind of amount, 700 or 600 million, whatever it is. So at what point do you bring them on board and tell them, now this is the point, let's agree?
you have to clear this amount. We have to do this, and you must also continue living as a Kenyan. So at what point do you come to a meeting point?
Now our systems are such that
yes.
if you've been assessed, for instance, there was a compliance or an audit, or a compliance check or audit, and we have assessed you, then there's a number of days after we have issued the assessment when we move it to debt. And so it is a continuous conversation. We do not wait for your debt to get to a certain amount for us to start collecting. And KRA is stratified into large taxpayers and medium taxpayers, such that at every one time we have people looking at you at your threshold.
Yeah.
So we do not wait for it to grow to a certain amount for us to start following it up. It is continuous. As long as there is an amount due, then debt is with you. Yeah.
It must be a lot of work at the KRA offices.
It is.
From the way you are explaining, because you deal with Kenyans for around 6 million people.
Yes.
That is your job.
Yes.
So what are the terms and conditions for a tax amnesty?
Tax amnesty, we said, this debt that we are going to waiver the principal and interest, the penalty and interest with regard to, must have accrued before 31st December 2022. So we are not waiving any principal and penalties and interest from January 2023 to date. So our cutoff date is 31st December 2022. That's the first condition. It must be debt relating to a period prior 31st December 2022.
Right.
The second condition is, if there is any outstanding principal, it must be paid by 30th June 2024. The third condition is, if there was no principal amount owed, then you don't need to apply. KRA is going to just credit that amount for you. The fourth condition is that you need to apply where you have principal taxes to be paid for you to qualify for the amnesty. Then you need to make an application. Where you have matters to do with ADR, that is, if you are at the ADR, alternative dispute resolution, you have some objections, you have some matters pending, the fact that your tax liability is not solid, you have some disagreements to do with it. If it's sorted by the date that we have said, 30th June 2024, then you also qualify for the amnesty.
Yeah. In a situation, for example, someone decides to relocate to a different jurisdiction.
Yes.
And so how do you handle such people?
If you owe us and we think you are at risk of fright, then we are supposed to assess you immediately. We have provisions in the law where if you need to relocate then and you have put that across, you need to be assessed to see whether you owe us. In fact, that responsibility lies with, we do it with the immigrations, that we do not let you out when you owe us.
You do a background check?
Yes, we do a background check.
But some just sneak into, probably, our porous borders, we have that. And they relocate, they switch off their lines, they change their phone numbers. Are you still in a position to track such people? What
we have done, we have gotten, we have ratified some agreements in our law so that we can ask, that is actually very new law, that we can ask a neighboring jurisdiction to help us track Victor, who has gone away with our money, and the others can do that. It has to be reciprocal. You can't ask a jurisdiction where they can't ask you. So the two countries must have the agreement in their law, and then so that they can follow. Like we can ask a jurisdiction where we have an agreement with, follow for us, Victor, and they can do that with the taxpayers.
Again, based on that, if you are a Kenyan living in a different country, and most of them remit money back home, and do they also qualify for tax amnesty, or they are responsible for their host countries?
Okay, that depends. For you to pay taxes in Kenya, you need to be resident. And residence for tax purposes has a few definitions. So if you meet the definition of resident in a year of income, then you're supposed to file your return. Then now, what return are you declaring? What income are you declaring is the next question. You're supposed to declare your global income, employment income, here, in the year in which you're resident. Then we will give you a set-off of the amount that you have paid the other side. So if there's something remaining, say I'm working in TZ and I'm a resident here and I paid 100,000 of taxes, I assess myself, I bring that income with what I earned in Kenya if there's anything, I assess myself, I'm supposed to pay 150, I will get a credit of the 100 I paid in TZ, then I pay the difference. So if the tax rate is higher there, it will mean I'm supposed to get more than I'm supposed to pay here. Normally, if that tax was paid in Kenya, you should get a refund. But in this case, because you didn't pay it here, you don't get a refund. However, you're supposed to declare all that income, then we'll give you employment income. We'll give you a set of what you paid there, and then you pay any difference. So whether you're supposed to pay as a non-resident or not depends on your residency status in a year of income. And that can change from one year to another. Yeah.
So who is eligible for tax amnesty or even to file their returns? So, formal employment, informal employment, mama mboga, farmer, is everyone eligible for tax amnesty? Everyone is eligible because all the income derived from Kenya is taxable. So, and when you make income, you declare it in a return. So if that return has any outstanding principal, it will have some penalties and interest. So that is the person we are targeting. By and large, it's everyone. Yes.
Yes.
So what if I don't have a KRA pin?
If you don't have a KRA pin?
Yes.
If you don't have a KRA pin, then it means you don't have any debt with us, because the only way to identify you as a taxpayer is using a pin. Then we are asking you to get one. If you have income that you should be declaring. Yes, it is not you. Of course, I know you have one because you're employed and you're remitting taxes. But that person who doesn't have, then we're asking them to get one. Because if they have income, they need to be declared.
Yeah, so you have to declare.
Yeah.
All right. In a situation where you have applied for tax amnesty, and then you default, so in the terms and conditions, so what will happen in that situation? If
you apply for tax amnesty and then you default, that is, you don't pay by 30th June, then that debt becomes due and collectible, and we are going to take it through the normal process of debt collection. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe another category of people who've been asking this question we've been getting on, what if I didn't file my returns and I've got penalties and penalties as a result of not filing my returns, then those people also qualify, as long as that return is for a period before 31st December 2024. 22, yes.
So Josephine, now what really happens to interest penalties and fines accrued for period from 1st of January 2023?
For those, they are not in the amnesty period, so those ones will have to be paid.
They're not in the amnesty period?
They're not in the amnesty period. Amnesty covers till 31st December 2022. So any penalties and interest that have started from January 2023 to date will have to be paid. However, I want to give a caution on that.
Yes.
There are some returns that can only be filed by the subsequent month, like by January 2023.
Yes.
Those ones are within.
Yes.
Yes, but any penalty and interest arising from 1st January 2023 coming this way, then that one you have to pay. Yes.
Let me just get a bit biblical here.
Yes.
The Bible said that you seek the kingdom when there's still time. All right?
Yeah.
Because there's a time that even stones will go and look for that. So what period do we have for tax amnesty?
Yeah, you have until 30th June 2024. But don't wait for the last minute, because if you need to get into a payment plan, then it has to start earlier.
Do you think they've had? Because we are last minute. You can remind them, please remind them that after that, there'll be no amnesty.
Yes, and there will even be no waiver. There will be no amnesty. And like we said, from 1st July 2023, there's no waiver.
Yes.
So you can't apply to have any amounts waived right now. In fact, if you go to the system, our waiver module is locked because the law changed. So the day that on 28th July, when the court ruled that the Finance Act can be implemented, we locked the waiver module.
Okay.
So you can't apply for any waivers. So what that means is that by 30th June 2024, if you've not taken the amnesty, any penalties and interest you owe KRA, you'll have to pay in cash. Yeah.
Let me just ask this. In terms of general outlook, how is the tax bracket in Kenya looking like? In terms of people who are paying taxes and people who are defaulters, and looking forward, how does it look from the face of KRA? What's the future like?
The future, of course, is to expand our tax base. That means to get more people paying. We, for instance, know that the informal sector is hard to tax. It's hard to get them. Like you said, Mama Mboga, how do I know how much Mboga is sold and all? So,
but still, the county government still collect taxes from them? 20 shillings, 50 shillings?
Yeah.
How does KRA account for that?
KRA works on a self-assessment regime.
Right.
I come, suppose this was a paying assessment, you're paying me, I'm supposed to declare this income to KRA. That's how our regime is from 1991. Self-assessment. It is me to tell the government what I made. However, to help us see the taxpayers, we are trying to formalize, trying to bring in the system, iTax and eTIMS, and because then when we formalize, we are visible. We have withholding tax, so that if suppose you are paying me to do this interview, when you pay me, you take something small and pay to KRA. That way KRA knows Josephine did this interview and she was paid so much. So I'm supposed to tell that to KRA that I made this money. So we are trying to reach you through those you do business with, and we're also trying to formalize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody is eligible to pay tax.
Everybody is
eligible
to pay
tax. So long as you have attained the age of 18.
No, as long as you're making income. Because you might be 18 and not making any income.
Okay.
So you're supposed to pay taxes when you're making income. Yeah.
And only if
that income is not exempt. We have a few incomes that are exempt. So to the extent that your income is not exempt, then you're supposed to pay taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who is tax exempt?
The first schedule of the Income Tax Act lists who's exempt. County government, pensioners, for the monthly amounts they get or the lump sum, and a few others. They'll be listed. They're not many. Yeah.
But generally, everybody is supposed to pay taxes.
Yes.
So a student doing a side hustle, quote unquote, I said hustle, is also supposed to pay tax.
Yes, because Section 3 charges all the income derived from Kenya. We also have some income deemed to be derived from Kenya. So yes, that student who's doing a side hustle, they're making income. They should declare. Yeah.
Does one have to get a KRA PIN?
Yes, you must have a PIN for you to pay taxes, because the PIN is your unique identifier as far as our system is concerned. So if I'm to pay any taxes, then I must have a PIN. Okay. Yes.
So how important is this for everybody who is watching at this particular point, the tax amnesty and the period that is going to run? How important is it for KRA and the taxpayer?
It is important for both KRA and the taxpayer, because like we said, we're extending an olive branch. And so we are going to forgive, so to speak, the penalties and interest that you owe up to 31st December 2022. That is if you don't have any principal. If you have any principal and you pay it before 30th June 2024, we're also going to again forgive the penalties and interest. So you win in that way, that you don't have to pay. KRA wins in the collection, because for you to get the amnesty, you have to pay what you owe. Then it's a good thing for us also, for KRA. So it's a win-win for the taxpayer and for the tax administrator. Yeah.
The grace is there for everyone. You have to pay taxes.
Yes.
It runs for a particular period of time. So if you have not, and I'm glad I'm a clean person. Can you check my system on phone? No.
We can get into your app though.
I'm a good person. I'm a good person. So this does not belong to me. So at the end of the day, we have to pay taxes. That is under the law. That is the only way government will be in a position to meet all the obligations of the sun, run our services, even the health service that you need. We have to pay taxes at the end of the day. The roads have to be done through the taxes that we pay. Josephine has given us an insight here, but there's a question. So a situation comes, you have, we've reached the deadline, someone has died. So what happens? And you've not paid taxes, and you had that waiver, you have a business running. So what really happens in that situation?
Did someone die in the course of, in this period of amnesty?
Yes.
Or
yes.
What exactly is the situation?
If someone applies for tax amnesty, the period lapses, or somebody, in the course of something happens, or he or she dies. So what happens?
You know, now when you die, we move your PIN to an administrator's PIN. We have the deceased PIN. We're supposed to issue a PIN for the estate. Whether that's the procedure. So now, if you die and you had paid all the amounts, the principal that was outstanding, then you still qualify for penalty and interest. If you die and you had not paid, then it means you don't qualify, because this is something related to a time frame. So if whatever needs to be fulfilled within that time frame was not fulfilled, then the natural course of action should happen, which is, in this case, we'll transfer that debt to your estate. That's what I would say. So depending now on your status, if you had maybe, depending on what you're asking for amnesty for, let's take for a landlord, for instance.
Yes.
I asked for an amnesty, but before I could pay up, I passed on. Then that goes on to my administrator's PIN, and this debt will be recovered from my estate. So whoever is taking over, my children, before the administration can happen, then the taxes will be deducted. If you're doing business, then we'll recover from your business, because unless it was a partnership,
yes,
if it was a company, it's going on. So it really depends on the special purpose vehicle being used. A sole proprietor will be different from a partnership, will be different from a company. We don't expect much to stop from a company because one person has died, because it is a continuing entity and on. So that question would have as many questions as there are.
And what if I only have one source of business? I mean, and I was paying taxes, then bad luck, something happens. So what really happens in this situation? How do you track such a person to ensure that all taxes are paid? In a situation where, for example, I have a shop, I'm running a shop, or I'm running some hotel, then in the process, it's a sole proprietorship, then what really happens? Do you hand it over to someone else and charge it?
Nobody can pay your taxes for you, so we will see what your business can pay, and then we will recover, depending on whether that business is ongoing or you're going to close. Some of these debts, suppose you're to close that business, really then it would mean those taxes cannot be paid, because you're the one who was doing business and you've closed and you're a sole proprietor. And perhaps there is no estate to pass the taxes on to, so then some of those might have to be waived or to be forgone.
Okay, so there's that bit of when you have a business, for example, and business, by bad luck, there's a calamity, natural causes, there's either fire, there is theft, and you completely go bankrupt. What really happens? And yet you had applied for a tax amnesty.
We're hoping all those things don't happen. The picture is so gloom. But now, if you had applied for a tax amnesty and your business goes under, and you had not paid, then you won't qualify. There's nothing we can do. It's a time frame. It's a time-related benefit. So if it is not effected in that time, then you can't get it. However, when there is a fire or such a calamity like you're saying, depending on your circumstances, if you're insured, we have been allowing you to claim the premiums you've been paid.
Yes.
So the compensation is declared as income because you have been expensing the premiums. If you have not insured, then we allow you to carry that business loss into your future profits because you're not closing the business with the amnesty. So the normal way of business is, if you make a loss this year, you can claim that. As long as it's related to the business, you can claim it in the future profits. And that's the same thing that would happen if you had a calamity, for instance.
Okay. So in terms of waiver and write-offs, everybody is also eligible for such?
Yes, everybody is eligible, yes, because the law is to all of us.
Yes.
We don't have a law for individuals or a law for people who are doing this kind of business. The law is common to everyone. So yes, the answer is yes. Everyone will be eligible.
The period also applies to both. For tax amnesty, do we serve the same time frame?
Yes, the tax amnesty is on until 30th June 2024 for everyone.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Everyone, I mean, whatever business you're doing, whatever age, whatever person you are, whether you're a company, an individual, to everyone. Yes.
So who is not, I want to ask a question, but anyway.
You can ask.
Okay.
When you think about it.
What if the president doesn't pay tax? Do you go for him?
I want to believe the president pays tax because he leads by example.
Yes.
But in the event he didn't, yes, we would.
Who do you send? Write to him, call him, the commissioner, reminder?
Of course, there would be protocol. We have protocol for everyone, by the way. You'd be interested to know that we have relationship officers.
Yes.
So if you came, you have relationship officers for every cadre of taxpayers. Yes. So of course there would be protocol, but yes, we would go for the taxes.
Some of these things really do pass us by because of lack of information. When you go back to the rural setup, a person or two might not get this kind of information. How are you disseminating the same information so that apart from using the national broadcaster like this one, are you doing sensitization also to tell people to pay taxes?
Yes, we are doing tax sensitizations, and we do them even in vernacular. We come to the village. We like KRA is a multi-faced organization,
yes.
So we have someone who can speak almost every language. So when we are going to such forums, to the chief barazas, we reach to the last person. We will talk your language at your level.
Yeah.
So yes, we are doing sensitizations, we are doing road shows, we are doing vernacular radio. Yes, chiefs, barazas, everything to reach everyone.
Okay.
And of course mail for you and the people who use that kind of communication.
Yeah, we're here.
And WhatsApp and social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josephine, we are coming to the close of this one. Talking to Kenyans, the grace period is here. We have to take advantage, quote unquote, take advantage of the situation, because moving forward, there'll be no grace for everyone. So what do you tell Kenyans moving forward?
I tell Kenyans that this government is sensitive to our plight. We are coming from COVID, where businesses didn't do so well. And so we have an olive branch to clean our tax records, to take that advantage of the amnesty, which, like I said, runs from 1st of September to 30th June 2024. That means apply if you have any outstanding principal taxes, so that then you can pay the outstanding principal, and then we waiver the penalties and interest. It is a good thing, and like I said, from 1st of July 2023, the law that was allowing us to waiver for you to apply for a waiver is not there. Even the module on iTax is not there. So this is really good, because if this amnesty passes you by, then it means you'll have to pay any penalties and interest that will be outstanding for whatever period.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the sake of people who probably are just joining us, you can just remind them the procedure and the requirements.
Okay. The requirement is you need to get into your ledger for you to know what you owe when. And then as long as that debt relates to a period before 31st December 2022, you qualify for the amnesty. You have until 30th June 2024 to apply and pay, and then you get the principal and the penalties and interest waived when you pay the principal taxes. If you do not have any principal tax due, then you automatically qualify. You don't need to apply. You qualify. Any penalties in your ledger or interest will be waived automatically, as long as they relate to a period before 31st December 2022.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. That's where we wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming over the show. For once, I was in a business class, I must admit.
Okay.
Ledger, principal, you've reminded me of what else? Interest and all that. We learn every day.
Yes,
we are in a class. Each and every time we wake up in the morning, we are always in a class. Thank you so much, Josephine Mugure, who is the Chief Manager, Corporate Policy Division at the Kenya Revenue Authority. Thank you so much for coming over to the show, for giving us that lesson for free. Now we have graduated. Power to read. All right. So if you have an issue with KRA, please contact them. You've had it. You can go to their offices. You can do an email. You can write to them. Get that grace period. It's just for a particular period of time, and therefore after that there'll be no waiver, there'll be no write-offs, there'll be no tax amnesty moving forward. Take advantage of the situation and be a good citizen. That's why we wrap it up. We're taking a break and we come back. Crossing over to Zinga. Today we'll be talking about mwaka moja wa Kenya Kwanza administration, marking 1 year ever since Kenya Kwanza took office. And the guest MP, West Mogiranga, that is Steve Mogaka, Gibson Gisori, who is an advocate of the High Court, as well as David Alur, political and economic analyst, will be joining Rashid Mamkondo shortly after this break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.